Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond, and London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys from Canada, you know we love you in Africa, the Big C tribe, but there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south in the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful August 23rd, 2018. Big C, how's it going for you good old boys down south?
Well, Charlton, we've gotten August 23rd already, and we don't have a football game yet for the college football season, but we got a major controversy going on already in Buckeye Nation.
Oh, man, talk about those Buckeyes. Nobody's happier than Jim Harbaugh, the Michigan Wolverines. I'm sure they were hoping for a different outcome, but I think we saw what happens when you have a coach that's too valuable to lose because he's a cash cow for the good old Buckeyes of Ohio State. Also, a lot of things going on in the sports universe. Talking about some NFL players and teams, the Rams look like they're loaded. Love having people talk about the preseason games and who's actually going to make the teams coming up for the regular season. As far as quarterbacks, Prescott, there's 64 players that make more money than him, but nothing's more important than sometimes, because I read a lot, I was reading about just things that go on in the world of POTUS. POTUS and country. It could actually be a movie. I tell you, I love how we mix sports and Hollywood and politics, and I listen to some stations in Northern California that say, I will never talk politics. This is a sports show. We won't talk about anything other than sports. And they have nothing to talk about because all the smart people concerned about politics. I do want to say this segment sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you. You know, some things that concern me as a person of color. I was talking yesterday about my Sikh friend that I just met that deals with a lot of racial animus, and he's a sports guy. He loves sports too, Big C. But when he went to a fast food place, Northern California, California's very diverse, some good old boy threw a hot dog at him. Actually, it was a chili dog. It stained his clothing. And he felt that it's happened more since the last 2 years. So if America has an issue, and POTUS is saying that it's too expensive for people, then what are Americans doing in this country? It's expensive for everybody, but I want to get your thoughts on some of the things going on with POTUS and how so many people, they just don't want to talk about anything other than sports. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it's amazing to have the backdrop that he has and people saying only sports matters, Charlton.
Yeah.
And that's not true. I mean, when they say you have these other shows saying we only want to talk about sports, I mean, we have nothing but a crossover now with politics and sports. Politics is continuously rearing its head in sports. And it's always been in sports, Charlton. How do these people think these stadiums get built?
Yeah.
Politicians have been involved. Cities have been involved. Money from government and taxpayers have been involved to build every arena in America.
Yeah.
It's all come about. And now, you know, when I heard the networks the other day, ESPN, saying that they weren't going to air the national anthem, which is rightful, Charlton. You know, I tune into a game to see the kickoff.
Yeah.
I don't even care about the coin flip. It's irrelevant.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about it. What does a coin flip mean in a football game? It means one team's going to get the ball in the first half, another team's going to get the ball in the second half.
Yeah.
Even when I played, it didn't mean anything. You were going to get the ball in one of the halves. That's all it meant.
Yep.
You know, what mattered was what you did when you had the ball.
Yeah.
So you're going to tell me that somebody wants to tune in to watch a 2.5-minute national anthem. For what? You know, what significance will it have in the outcome of the game? It doesn't determine the coin flip.
Yeah.
It doesn't determine the kick return, Charlton.
Yeah.
That's what we tune into a game for. So if they want to politicize all this, and this occurs constantly, every day somebody's trying to politicize some aspect of sports.
Yeah.
And so when people say, this is all I want to talk about is the game.
Yeah.
Indeed, when they say that. I mean, we get politicized on everything that occurs in America, whether it's something heinous,
Yeah.
something sports, or just everyday life.
Yeah.
I mean, and you know, when I look at politicizing, I mean, we had a president who went as low as you could go the other day. This young lady, Molly Pickett, lost her life.
Yeah, I know. It's
this
horrible.
Iowa student. She'd been missing for 39 days. And the individual that's alleged to have admitted the crime, Charlton, took him to her body.
Yeah.
And the president tried to politicize this situation, saying that if they had the border wall up, this wouldn't happen. Now, this individual allegedly came into America up to 7 years ago.
Yeah.
7 years ago, Charlton. The individual that hired them in Iowa was a Republican. He was a Republican farmer.
Yeah.
And he lied in his first press conference about what happened, as far as how he documented this individual.
Yeah.
But what I want to go to, Charlton, there was an individual last week in Colorado, Christopher Watts, whose wife and 2 young daughters that came up missing. His wife was pregnant.
Oh, I remember that
story.
There
was nothing said by the media to politicize this as an illegal immigrant.
Yeah.
He committed a heinous crime against his pregnant wife and his 2 young daughters under the age of 4. The president had no say-so about that. Fox News had no say-so about this.
Yeah.
This was as heinous as a crime as anybody that ever remember. I know years ago, people in California remember Lacey Peterson.
Yeah, I remember
and her
that.
husband, Scott Peterson.
Yep.
This was the same type of incident, Charlton. This was a man who killed his 2 young daughters under the age of 4 and his pregnant wife, Charlton. Did the president politicize that, saying that we need to put up a border around Colorado?
No.
To keep out these disgruntled white males who kill pregnant women and children?
His own
He didn't say that.
No.
Fox News didn't say that.
No.
But they politicized his situation in Iowa. And I know it's not sports, Charlton, but it's life. And when you're going to politicize part of it, Charlton, you have to bring things into perspective.
Yeah.
You can't blame one color of people, Charlton, for all the crimes that other people commit in a country.
Well, I 100% agree with what you said, because California is so diverse, so you're bound to run across people who face discrimination and some that don't. And for the Sikh gentleman that I sat down and spoke with, he talked about some things that's happened to him, and I asked him, so did you call law enforcement? He said, no, I didn't call because I just wanted to keep my family safe. Well, he didn't call law enforcement because he fears of some type of retaliation. Now, something's up in our country when you can't call law enforcement because you fear that they may turn on you. And I know that's been stories that many people of color have talked about, African American community. There are times when, you know, everybody loves sports. We all use it to get our mind off of different things. But people wonder why sometimes some communities of color don't call law enforcement when something bad goes down. And we see a lot of what's happening in Chicago. Well, oftentimes, they don't want to have it turned on them. I'll give my own little story. It won't take more than a minute. I remember living in a community, Northern California, fairly new community, gated community, and I had law enforcement call, came to my house, 3 of them in squad cars with 2 each, that's 6 law enforcement officers, saying that one of my neighbors, who was a Caucasian guy, felt that someone was trying to break into his home. All it was I had some teenage family members playing ding dong ditch, where they ring a doorbell and run. And normally you would come to the house if you saw them going back to my home and say, hey, could you have your guest, not ring the doorbell and run, as they did to several people. Teenagers do that when they're 12 to 14 years old. But they felt to have 3 law enforcement pull up on my yard, and I went outside and spoke with them foolishly because I didn't want them coming inside doing something stupid. Well, ironically, my neighbor who was Caucasian, about a couple of months later, his wife knocks on my door and said that he was beating her up. She never called the police on her own husband, but they called on Ding Dong Ditch to my house. So I didn't want to call them because I know how they show up. They didn't bother the guy who was Caucasian, who was guilty of beating up his wife, but they questioned me for about 10 minutes on Ding Dong Ditch. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, something that's how society is. I mean, when we look at what matters to people, what matters to them is people that look like them, Charlton.
Yeah.
People that don't look like you have this phobia about it. And people can say, well, I don't, because I have friends that are minorities. Well, because you just said what you said, it makes you that person.
Yeah.
You should just say you have friends.
Yeah.
You don't have to say that you have colored friends. You don't have to say you have Hispanic friends. You don't have to say you have Asian friends. Because do you say you have white friends? No, you don't.
Yeah.
That labels you as scrutinizing people.
Yeah. Yep.
That you're not treating everybody equal. Well, I have to categorize these friends over here.
Yeah.
But I have to categorize the friends who look like me.
Yep.
And that's as subtle as it is in discrimination in society. Is that you categorize the friends who don't look like you.
Yeah.
And we all heard those things growing up. Yeah, I got black friends.
Yeah.
And I heard white friends saying that. Yeah, I have some black guys I deal with. I have some Hispanic guys I deal with.
Yeah.
But they never said I have white guys that I deal with.
Yep.
They just took it for granted that, they're not minorities and they're normal.
Yeah.
And identify these people who did not look like me.
Yeah.
Testify their existence.
Yep, that's true.
We see that in sports. We see that in politics.
Yeah.
When we hear people give statistics and numbers, well, this number of Hispanic Americans, this number of African American Americans, no one says this number of white Americans.
No, not at all. And so,
and I don't care whether you're watching the news. I don't care whether you're watching sports.
Yeah.
Everybody categorizes everybody else who's not white.
That tends to happen a lot. So when I hear my brethren on the radio and TV saying they only want to talk about sports, what I just mentioned never really happens to them. But because it has happened to me, I feel like I'd be part of the problem if I did not say something. Because when people say we want to create some change, we want to do that. Now I want to throw this to Ohio State and the Buckeye Nation, and you can't please everybody. And I know that everybody wants to hold a candle to something that Urban Meyer did or did not do. So no matter what side you're on, you're going to be right or wrong, because everybody's going to have their opinion. And with Urban Meyer, could he have done a better job? Yes. Did he go far enough in protecting the woman? No. But let's also look at something that people need to also look at too. When they look at how everyone accused Urban Meyer, it's as if he's the one who did something. He lied. Yeah, he could have been more forthcoming. He who was without sin cast the first stone. Not too many people are going to throw that stone. But I want to get your thoughts, because you were right about something. I thought they would fire him, but you said they were going to find a way to keep him. And you're right about that. You mentioned that as soon as it happened. So I just let you run with it. What happened in all these conversations, like a jury of his peers, more like a jury of Ohio State peers, like I said, we got too much money to lose if he's not here, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, the judge and jury is always the media, Charlton.
Yeah.
And when they say they just want to talk, they don't want to talk sports. They just want to talk sports and not politics. They politicize this situation, Charlton. This went beyond the realm of sports. At no point was a game being played at any time any of these incidents occurred. Let's take the sports out of the equation, okay?
Yeah.
Because there were no Ohio State games being played or practice being enacted at any time any of these alleged incidents occurred.
Yeah.
Through these text messages or photographs or whatever, Charlton.
Yeah.
Or even any of these statements by Urban Meyer. Let me backtrack a little bit with Ohio State. Let's go back to 2002. They won a national championship.
Yeah.
And they had a coach that had some players that sold some pants, some memorabilia.
Was it Truxell?
Okay. And also some tattoos.
Yeah.
That coach lost his job behind that, Charlton, after a few years after they won the national championship. Jim Tressel. Jim Finkel took over for Ohio State, a team that was ranked in the top 10 the year before.
Yeah.
Okay? Would have been challenging for a national championship. The following year, they went 6-6. That was 8 years ago, Charlton.
Yep.
They went 6-6. The following year, they hired Urban Meyer. Now, in 7 seasons, Urban Meyer has gone 76-8.
Yeah.
76-8. So I think people at Ohio State understand the math.
Yeah.
They didn't have a chance to win the Big Ten championship with Finkel as coach.
Nope.
They were 6-6. Urban Meyer's gone 76-8 in 7 seasons. Let's go back to Finkel. He was 6-6. Sometimes you just got to look at the pure numbers.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people have a hard time following that.
Yeah.
In 7 seasons, Urban Meyer has lost 8 games. Count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 games.
Yeah.
He's won a national championship, Charles. He's been in the playoffs twice. 8 games he lost. Finkel, 8 seasons ago, lost how many games? 6.
Yeah.
Count them.
Yep.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't care how you slice the math. That's pure economics. He loses 6 games in one season.
Yeah.
Urban Meyer loses 8 games in 7 seasons.
Yeah.
If you fire Urban Meyer, at the start of next season, he's on a campus making more money than what you were paying him. Ed Ogeron down at LSU would have been out of a job by the end of the season.
Yeah.
And he'd have been at LSU.
Yeah.
Making $10 million a year.
Yep.
Getting all those recruits that he would have had coming to Ohio State. You don't know what you would have gotten at a coach at Ohio State.
Yeah.
In a year, you might have been 7-5. Urban Meyer could have been 12-1.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there looking. He's playing for a national championship. We even win the Big Ten title.
Yeah.
So let's save face. Let's go on here. We got this athletic director named Jimmy Smith. It had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Out of the equation, 200%. Let's suspend him for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Think about it. You suspend the athletic director for 3 weeks, and he had nothing to do with it.
Nothing at all.
You're going to say, Urban Meyer, the media beat him up for a couple weeks, but the athletics director, Jimmy Smith, had nothing to do with this.
Yeah.
Here these actions. He's not out there running football, but he's the administrator of athletics at Ohio State. He gets a 3-week suspension because you can't hold Urban Meyer completely culpable for it. One other thing, Jimmy Smith is black, okay?
Yeah.
He's an athletic director. He's black. But you have to point a finger at him also because he should have known what was going on every athletic field and coach at Ohio State.
Yeah.
Ohio State has dozens of sports teams, male and female.
Yeah.
But he needs to know what's going on with each and every one of them at every moment of the day.
Yep.
All right, that's what he needs to know. So if he got a 3-week suspension, you should have took that up one more notch. The president of the university should get at least a 3-week suspension.
Yeah.
Because he needs to know what the athletic director knows and doesn't know.
The president's not black, though. Yeah.
But he's not black.
Yeah.
So we're not going to touch him.
Yeah.
But we're not going to put all the blame on Urban Meyer here.
Yeah.
Because Urban Meyer has a bipolar situation where he has to take medicine to remember what goes on at times. He doesn't always remember things.
Yeah.
So he has a forgetful nature. That's why he can't always call a timeout on time. He can't remember the plays that the team is running offensively or defensively.
Yeah.
He doesn't know what to say to the media when questioned in a press conference. And so he has an excuse. He has a medical condition that it does not allow him to function at 100% capacity.
Yeah.
But he knows how to cash that $7.5 million check every year.
Yeah, he'll cash that every day.
He knows where his bank is.
Yeah.
And one other thing.
Yeah.
And his medical condition may back this up. He didn't know how to delete all his text messages. So he had to go to someone else in the athletic department to make sure that he deleted them all properly.
Yeah, that's the sad part of all of it, too. Big, you know our microphones are being bugged, Big C, so we got a little static coming through, but we'll work on your microphone, getting that cleared up. But I think that's the most egregious thing, too, because, again, Urban Meyer, just like anybody else, and everybody is jumping on him today, but he knows that he knew more than he wanted to come forward with. That's why he tried to delete. I saw this commercial, and it was a funny commercial. This guy was in the hospital, and his girlfriend took him to the hospital. I don't know what had happened to him, but he was in there with needles all in him to pump saline through him or whatever they did to keep his vital signs strong. And then they took his clothing, of course, to put it away. But his girlfriend grabbed his cell phone, and she was going through his cell phone. And because he didn't want her to know what was on his cell phone, he ran out of the hospital with the wire still plugged into his body, trying to make sure she didn't get this cell phone. He jumps on top of the car. She speeds away because she found some of those texts that Urban Meyer was trying to delete too, because he just couldn't get him to delete it. I think that might have been Urban Meyer trying to run down the aisle, asking someone to help him delete the messages. But in one stance, we can say, well, he's off the hook because he's going to have his job back. He's going to be making that $7 million or $10 million, whatever he's making, not including the endorsements. So if you're a woman anywhere in the country, you can see the effort that is put forth to make sure we don't destroy the cash cow from a lot of men, Caucasian men for the most part. Black guy got punished for something white guy did. Not only the husband, but the woman called law enforcement. Black guy had nothing to do with it. He gets 3 games suspension. So for anybody that talks about social injustice, just tell me where that happens in the country, where someone had nothing to do with it, but he's punished. And no media pundits are talking about that more than maybe 5 seconds. They're only on Urban Meyer, but they're not even defending the innocent guy who happens to be an African American. And that's
they're not talking about. They're mentioning his name.
Yeah.
They're not talking about it. They're not going into the extent of what he did not do or what he wasn't involved in.
And you know what that does?
Let me tell you where Ohio State got their suspension policy from.
Yeah.
Go back to the New York Giants. I believe that they called the Mara family.
Yeah.
And you think about this. When Josh Brown was beating his wife when he was a kicker
20 times
with the New York Giants, and there was 20 police calls, the Mara family was aware of this. Tom Coughlin, who is now the GM of the Jacksonville Jaguars, was aware of this, Charlton. And he remained the head coach throughout his career of the New York Giants.
Yeah.
Tom Coughlin was never sanctioned or suspended by the New York Giants or the NFL for harboring this criminal, Charlton.
No.
And I'm serious. He was harboring a criminal. He was aiding and abetting. But yet he was praised because he was the head coach of the New York Giants.
Yeah.
Now, I can't help but think if Josh Brown was a black running back on the New York Giants, what the league would have done to him. A la Ray Rice of Baltimore.
Yeah, and especially if he were...
We had one incident with Ray Rice now. One incident.
Yeah.
Not 21. One. Josh Brown got a pay raise.
Yep.
Ray Rice has never gotten another paycheck. So when you say there's a double standard, people say, oh, you're making it racist. No, it's a double standard.
Yeah.
This is black and white, period.
And so,
Ray Rice was a black running back in the NFL that struck his wife, and he shouldn't have. And yet, he should have been punished for it.
Yep.
So he should not have been able to force not be able to make a living any longer.
Yeah.
Josh Brown was covered by 3 years by the Mara family, the owner of the New York Giants, and Coach Tom Coughlin.
Yeah.
Also received a $2 million pay increase during this time, Charlton.
Yeah.
Covered up by the NFL and the New York Giants. And never got any negative backlash such as the Ray Rice has got.
And so I asked, and this is for anyone to Google, because we say Google what we say too. When you listen to our sports brethren on any network, and they want to chastise, Urban Meyer, and they want to say the group that got together to decide that he's going to keep his job, they're saying he got it wrong and he wasn't contrite, he was reading unapologetically. They don't even mention anything about defending Gene Smith. They don't mention anything about it. They get on that high horse, but they won't even chastise themselves because they're not reporting accurately who was all harmed. Yes, the woman was harmed. She went to get some help, and even law enforcement let her down. Okay? That man could have been arrested, that coach, but they let him off the hook too because he has that white skin privilege thing going on for him.
Well, no, he had that Ohio privilege. So.
That too, but he was also Caucasian.
Privilege.
Yeah.
Now think about this.
Yeah.
You had that Buckeye privilege.
Yeah.
You didn't want to upset Urban Meyer because if Urban Meyer calls your boss, the police chief, especially the campus police now.
Yeah.
Which we don't know where they live, which they could have had something within the campus facility that involves the campus police.
Yeah.
Housing or just even local Columbus. Let me give you a perfect example.
Yeah.
Kirk Herbstreit. And Kirk Herbstreit was silent throughout this, as well as Chris Fowler, who were great fans of the coach.
Yeah.
All right? Kirk Herbstreit, an alumnus of Ohio State, star quarterback there, Charlton, had to leave Columbus several years ago.
Yeah.
Because whenever he said something negative about Ohio State,
they got on him.
His family received threats. So he had to move his family to Knoxville, Charlton.
Yep.
And to get away from that, Charlton, because of the insanity of people around college football. And so that police officer who may or may not have answered that call had to sit there and say, do I cherish my livelihood?
Yeah.
Do I continuously want to work here? Or do I want to come under some scrutiny for something that may or may not be accurate?
Yeah.
That's what he had to look at.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is deeper than what people think. The media wants to make it seem sexy and Urban got away with a crime. None of us was there.
No.
Everybody involved in this thing, Charlton, is involved in some sort of cover-up or hiding of evidence, okay?
Yeah.
No one is 100% accurate, whether it's the board that reviewed this, whether it's Urban Myers in his response, whether it's the bloodthirsty media who wants to be the person who buried somebody. And I would love for them to look in that double mirror and see how many of them have dirt in their closet.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So they're not clean. They're sitting around talking about, this greater-than-thou mentality. Ohio State knew what it was getting when it hired Urban Meyer 7 years ago, Charlton, 8 years ago now.
Why do you say that?
They knew the way that he handled situations. He's had 41 players arrested at the University of Florida.
Yeah.
They knew that players had been kicked off the team for all types of incidents, Charlton. Theft, fighting, assault.
Yeah.
Anything you can name.
Yep.
Even had players shooting at other people. Gun charges.
Everything you need.
Yep. And who's the guy that's going out recruiting these people? And so the day that we get over, all of us in sports, and I played college football, so I know what the recruiting environment is like. We talked about that with players getting excessive money on recruiting trips.
Yeah.
That's where it starts, because you pay for what you get. I don't care where you are in life. If you want to pay to go to a buffet, that's what you get. Everybody reaching over the food.
Yeah.
Or if you want to go to a 5-star restaurant, you get personalized service.
Yep.
That's what a big-time university is a 5-star restaurant, okay? One of the Power 5 conferences, those are 5-star restaurants. They get the elite. They get the top players.
Yeah.
They pay top dollar, Charlton. In the rest of the schools, those schools that are not in the Power 5, Charlton, those Division II, the 1AA schools, that's going to a buffet.
Yeah.
Because you get what's left over.
You get
what everybody else has reached over to get. So when you're being realistic and you want to eat at the table with the big boys,
yeah,
there's a lot of things that people will walk past, Charlton, and say, hey, we're concerned about this. We're concerned about the student athlete. But in the bottom line, Charlton, this 105,000 seat stadium out here,
yep,
it has to be full.
It has,
okay?
Yeah.
And it has to be full. We don't fill that 105,000 seat stadium by being 6-6.
Yeah.
We don't sell $12 million worth of merchandise on game day with a 6-6 team.
Yeah.
We don't. When we have 105,000 people in the stadium for 8 home games out of the year, and we're selling $12 million worth of licensing and merchandise gear,
yep,
as well as everything else that's involved in that game, that's our success story. And we can't find guys every day who can do it. That's why Texas A&M just paid Jimbo Fisher $75 million, Charlton.
Yeah.
$75 million, guaranteed. So if he gets fired in 5 years, Charlton, he still will receive $37 million.
That's incredible. And for people that want to know, how big is the money for some of these top college programs? Even just going down the top 10, and you mentioned Texas A&M, $193 million comes in for some of their athletic programs, primarily football, and then the other sports combined. Texas, number 2 at $84 million. Ohio State, number 3 at $167 million. And I think I said Texas, $184 million. Ohio State, number 3, $167 million. Michigan, number 4, $153 million. Alabama, number 5, $149 million. Florida, number 6, $147 million. LSU, number 7, $139 million. Oklahoma, number 8, $139 million. Tennessee, number 9, $127 million. And number 10, Penn State, $126 million, primarily through football and their other top programs. The thing that's common among all of those teams that I've mentioned off, about 7 of those 10 have stadiums that seat over 100,000. That's why it's a lot of pressure not to let somebody go where they're in a program that brings in that kind of money. So again, for any woman going through that garbage, you got to advocate for yourself and call 911. Not call the coach's wife. You call police. Don't put it on the coach's wife to save you. Call the police. It's called 911 on your phone. It will keep you and your daughter safe. I do want to say that sports is a billion-dollar industry, and boys and girls sports is the foundation to this billion-dollar industry. And for every sporting event, athletic event, you need athletic and event insurance. We work with Ben and Mark. They've been around half a century. They work with Big C Sports, whether you're a pro team, a collegiate team, a high school team, or your mom and pop soccer league. When you reach out to them, let them know Big C sent you. So with Urban Meyer, congratulations, he has a job. For every woman, the next woman to come forward, you got to understand you're kind of on your own.
Let me take this a little further, Charlton.
Yeah.
When Mack Brown was leaving the University of Texas, there was an evaluation of the value of the football team to the University Athletics. They assessed the value of each and every one of those football players on his roster at that time to be worth, to the university, Charlton, $641,000 each.
Wow.
They put the value on football players now in college football. So when they talk about paying a coach, we're going back to that slave mentality. What is it worth?
Yeah.
What is that individual worth? University of Texas did a survey. Mack Brown was going to go.
Yeah.
$641,000 each was the value placed on each football player on that football team. So when you start thinking that things matter, other than just the athletics on the Charlton, it doesn't. It really doesn't. And I know we're strong advocates for the protection of women in society, not just us, Charlton. Many other people are.
Oh, yeah.
Many other people are. But let me give you a perfect scenario. There's a lady named Brenda Tracy. Several years ago, she was a college student, and she was at a party. And she was given a drink, Charlton, at a party. A few sips later, she passed out. And at this party, Charlton, when she came to consciousness, semi-consciousness, she could not move her body. This lady now, Charlton, is an advocate speaker around on the college football circuit. She's going to visit 16 major universities this year, Charlton, invited in by the coaches, okay?
Yeah.
To speak on this domestic violence against women and sexual assault. Well, when she came semi-abreast of her surroundings, she knew that she was laying on the floor on her back. She turned her head to one side. There was one male there trying to force his penis in her mouth. She turned away the other direction. There was another one there. She looked on top of her. There was a male forcibly raping her, and another one standing there waiting to continue on with what he was doing, Charlton. This was a college female student.
Is that Arkansas?
So when you say that women have to call 911, she did call 911, Charlton. It was investigated by the campus police and the city police. But because this was a major college program, Charlton, a major 5-power program, Charlton, these players got 1 game suspension.
Wow.
Because the value, I just gave you the value of what University of Texas put on these players. $641,000. And this is right before Charlie Strong went to the University of Texas. Texas valued their players at $641,000. I'm not saying the university this happened at Charlton.
Right.
But 2 of these players transferred out. They went to another major university in the Power 5 conference, Charlton. They got a 1 game suspension at that conference once that coach found out about it. But they continued to play at that conference, Charlton.
Wow.
And now, and I want to praise Chad Morris. Chad Morris is the new head coach at the University of Arkansas. While he was at SMU as a head coach, Charlton, he brought in Brenda Tracy to speak to the players about what had happened to her, this heinous crime that had happened to her, to make these players aware that this is the entrapment of college football, and don't think that you're covering for your buddies.
Yep.
That if you get involved in this incident, someone will be seriously hurt. The individual that you hurt, and maybe even yourself down the road, because you don't know if you're going to have to go to do some jail time or be registered as a predator.
Well, I tell you what.
This is real, Charlton.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm praising or thanking these other coaches for bringing her into their program to speak to their players about what not to do in an environment of college athletics, because you have this high esteem and prestige on campus that you can't abuse it and you cannot abuse women.
Yeah.
But when we sit here and see that universities really don't protect women, Michigan State, perfect example. You know, we've seen what has happened there. Even Ohio State, not just with this incident with Smith, but with the doctor that abused over 1,000 athletes, male athletes, Charlton, before he committed suicide. We've seen Penn State. We've seen multiple incidents, Charlton. When we sit here and we listen to Brenda Tracy's story, this is a common act on college campuses, Charlton, that has gone on for decades. That people at University of Pacific, Charlton, the same incident occurred to a volleyball player there over a decade ago.
I remember
he
that.
He had to transfer out. The basketball players, Charlton, all got a couple game suspension. She had to leave the university under embarrassment because nobody would believe her. They suspended the players a couple games, Charlton, but they did not bring criminal charges.
Wow.
So when we say that these women have to call 911, that that's their protection, what is 911 when it comes down to a player who is worth $641,000 and there's 4 or 5 of them that's involved? So we're talking $2 to $3 million, okay? Value to the university of these athletes. So when people say, well, they're getting a $40,000 scholarship, well, he's worth $600,000 more than the scholarship is.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So when we're sitting there and the police officers coming in, well, guys, do we really want to destroy these young men's career? Let's semi-investigate this. Coach making in the neighborhood of $10 million. Guys, you want season tickets? Don't worry about it. We get your season ticket. We get you some autographed footballs and a helmet and a jersey. We want to thank you for the investigation. You did a marvelous job. As a fan, which one do you want?
I think that the numbers are definitely there, but that is still egregious. And even if the guy's bringing $1 million to the school, if you call 911, it's in the system. What happens after that, you can at least pursue it. Because for assault that happens, for most people, if they're in that situation or not, the only alternative is to say nothing. And I doubt if any man will let that happen to him and say nothing. I know it happens to men too, but you still gotta.
Charlton,
yeah.
Did you forget about Florida State just several seasons ago when they won a national championship? They had this quarterback that just got suspended by the NFL for 3 games.
Yeah.
Inappropriate sexual misconduct out in Arizona where he didn't even live on an Uber driver.
Yeah.
And while he was a freshman at the university, he was alleged in a sexual assault against a female student. Oh, and by the way, his head coach just got $75 million guaranteed at Texas A&M.
Yeah.
And she called 911. The school investigated this. But this is the next cash cow at the university. They went on to win a national championship that year. What was that national championship's value at Florida State? You got to put it in north of 20. That's value.
Yeah.
Minimum. The national championship's value to the university. They gladly gave this young lady $1 million settlement and an NDS clause, okay?
Yeah.
That's what she got. Here's $1 million. Go ahead on with your life. Don't worry about it. He'll never do this again. He's contrite. He apologizes. We apologize at the university. We know we didn't mean for this to happen, and, nothing like this will ever happen to you again.
Right.
But you can't cost us between $25 and $50 million. So we will give you a few dollars, Chris, to go away.
Yeah. Think
about that. $2 million because we're going to offer this player $25 to $50 million and this coach.
Well, where's
the value at? Everybody in a community, when you look at these college communities, Charlton, and that's the mainstay of the community, what's the pride of these communities? Everybody, I saw a guy driving down the freeway today. He had so much Alabama stuff on his pickup, they should have arrested him.
Yeah.
And we're not even in Alabama. But you could tell that he was in Alabama, and he had so many stickers on his car with that big A on there, Charlton. It was ridiculous. It was an eyesore. I mean, they should have gave him a ticket just for being a distraction.
Let me ask you a question, because you brought up something that I wasn't aware of. What's the alternative to calling 911?
There's no alternative, Charlton. You have to call 911. But you also got to look who becomes the victim the second time, Charlton, in this. They don't believe these women right off the bat, Charlton. And any and everybody who's listening to our program, yes, I'm adamant about this. They don't believe them because you can sit up and look at all the settlements that continuously go out. Kobe Bryant just retired. Matter of fact, Kobe Bryant just had a birthday, turned 41 years old. Kobe Bryant paid $8 million several years ago in Colorado on an incident after the case had started. Let's get this over with. Here's $8 million. How much money did Kobe Bryant earn in his career after paying off that $8 million? You think he was concerned about the $8 million, Charlton? What would have been more heinous to Kobe? Go to jail, have his career end, or give away $8 million? That $8 million was a drop in the bucket. A drop in the bucket. Because Kobe's last 2 years in the NBA, his salary was $52 million, Charlton. $52 million his last 2 years. And he played another decade after this incident in Colorado.
Yeah.
Think about his endorsement deals, his shoes, his NBA contracts, all of that, Charlton. I'm just naming Kobe because he's marketable. Everybody knows who he was, and everybody remembers him.
Yeah.
But when you start looking at these things, and you say, what's the alternative to 911? I want to know what the alternative is, really, Charlton. There's got to be a better way for women to be treated, other than to call 911 and you be scrutinized. There was a judge last year in Canada who told a young rape victim, well, if you'd have kept your legs closed, this wouldn't have happened to you.
Wow.
This is a judge. This is the top guy in the courtroom, Charlton. He thought that lowly of a young girl, Charlton, to make that type of statement to her and still keep his seat on the bench. So when you have the people that are making decisions for other people and they don't care, and I guarantee you the guys at Ohio State, just like at any other university, Charlton, that have gone in and investigated these situations, that have gone to the athletic department, that have gone to the head coach, Charlton, and all of a sudden it's like, well, let me talk to you. Can we sit down and talk for a minute?
Yeah.
Let me know what type of evidence you got. And he's pushed the button, and he got a half a truckload of memorabilia outside for the guy by the time he leaves, or it's delivered at his house the next day. Can you give it 24 hours before you write your report? Let me look into it and let me get back to you. They don't automatically take these guys in, Charlton. But let's look at it this way. If you're a player and you get injured, all of a sudden, you're gone. They don't care about you.
Exactly.
Because you have no value to the university. No value. But you're Jameis Winston. You're not injured. You're the starting quarterback on one of the best teams in the country, and you have a chance to go undefeated. We'll find a way to make this go away. We will find a way.
Yep.
You won't go away, but we will find a way to make this go away. And so when you say, what's the alternative to calling 911, Charlton, is that those people that have the duty to protect and serve, that's what they need to do. They need to fulfill their job obligation.
I tell you what, that is something that everybody who has anyone going to college, that you got to find a solution. And I know it's more than blaming Urban Meyer for deleting text messages or what he did or did not do, and then putting other people in different universities in the same situation to delete a text or not report to authority, or whether they report or not, sometimes the authority may even turn a blind eye. I just hope that most women can find a way to just get the courage to dial that number, even though you may not always get the justice you're looking for. It's a start in the right direction. I do want to step on just one thing about Rick Pitino, because of all the things that have happened since he was in his situation, and I know he had his own issues. It seems like everybody, are there any clean people, I guess is the question. I know we put people, make them a paragon of virtue. Are there any clean people in the programs, the top programs?
Let's look at college athletics and coaches, Charlton. If we go out there and say, okay, we can't have a program with any bad coaches on it, you realize you're going to have a coaching shortage? You're going to have a coaching shortage, Charlton. If you put that out there in the end, you can't have anybody on your coaching staff that has anything in his background that's of criminal activity. Then you're going to have a shortage. You're going to have a coaching staff with Charlton 2 or 3 coaches on across the country.
You think it's really that dire where there's a lot of people that have that shade? I know Urban Meyer, let's say, irrespective of what happened at Ohio State, and when the kids that he recruited to Florida, maybe his idea was, if I don't give them an opportunity, kind of like Jerry Tarkanian, the late Jerry Tarkanian would say, if I don't give them an opportunity, where are they going to get that opportunity? So
I'm not talking about players, Shelton. I'm talking about coaches. I mean, we saw that last year with Johnny Manziel at Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Running from the police, committing criminal incidents.
Oh, Baker Mayfield. Yeah.
Yeah, Baker Mayfield. We saw that. So, I mean, it's always occurred with players. But look at these coaches, and I can go back to when I was in college. We had coaches with DUIs. You get a player with a DUI. Does he play? No, he's suspended. A coach, does he go out and coach next day? Yes, he does.
Yeah.
There's no problem with that, Charlton. So when you look at all these incidents that these coaches are involved in, and we're not singling out Ohio State, we can go across the country, Charlton. There's a lot of improprieties that occur with coaches, and have always gone on.
Yeah.
For years. But what's the solution? If you start suspending all this is like corporate America, Charlton. What's clean? You know, you can't go out there and say that this part of society is better than any other part of society.
Yeah.
Because they are society.
Well, it seems to be...
It's a part of society that's pigeonholed and everybody wants to focus on it, Charlton.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of times the higher you are, the more effort there is to protect what you do and then those around you. It's always a hierarchy. It seems like everything in life. I want to look at baseball for a second. The Boston Red Sox, they ran the record to 90 wins, 39 losses on the season, and David Price went 8 innings today. And he's been a star player since the All-Star break. Just your thoughts on the Red Sox. The one thing that might hurt them is that they're winning by such a large margin going into the playoffs. Bixie, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, what it's going to do is allow them time to rest some players. You know, in the next 20 games, they will start resting players. You know, David Price is 4-0 since the All-Star break. I think he has an ERA of just over 1, I think about 1.9. And that's phenomenal, Charlton. He went 8 innings today. He was untouchable. Some great gloves by the Red Sox in the outfield this afternoon to keep the players, you know, in check. But when you look at the Red Sox having 90 victories, Charlton, and 39 losses,
yeah,
you have another 30 games to play, another 40 games to play. All you got to do is win half of those, Charlton, and you're sitting there on the verge of setting a record, Charlton.
Yep.
But they got to start resting players. They got to get some of those, call up some players, Charlton, give them some time in the majors. But this is a team that's really, when you talk about stats and sets for the playoffs, Charlton,
yeah,
and the hunt for red October, it may be wearing a red sock again this year, Charlton.
Well, it just may be doing that, Big C. San Francisco playing the New York Mets back in their old stomping grounds, and Oakland at Minnesota. Oakland really has to keep winning to keep pace with the Houston Astros, San Diego, and the LA Dodgers, 2 Southern California teams making it happen. And then that's going to be on tomorrow night for the San Diego and the Dodgers. But I look at what Boston's doing, and it's great to have them back on top of things in the American League East. But it's just a matter of time before we get to the playoffs, and I wouldn't be surprised if the team that did not win the division, maybe a wild card team, got in there and got to the World Series. We know it's so competitive. I just want to jump on something real quick that it kind of crossed my mind, because we talk about it all the time. And there was even a story that came out of one of the major news outlets. They talked about the African-American athlete, like the NBA players, and a lot of players grow up in poverty. They grew up not having all the means and the resources to make life better, to make life more comfortable. And just because you become a multimillionaire, maybe overnight, if that makes sense, it doesn't take away some of the anxiety that people grew up with, and they have those same habits, which also can lead to a lot of stress. And we hear certain players, not just African Americans, but white kids too, not because you're in poverty, but I think poverty affects a lot more people than we think. When you go to bed without eating 3 meals a day, sometimes only 1 meal a day. But that anxiety that we hear some athletes coming out talking about, that has nothing to do with how much money you have. I just want you to touch on that a little bit, Bixie, your thoughts.
Well, Charlton, we touched a bit on that yesterday in the program. How the pressure is put on these guys. Well, I need help. You got to buy your parents a house, your friend. I've been boy forever. Your aunt. I was there changing your diapers. And the pressure from family and friends that's always put on these athletes, because they are the ones who now gotten over the hump. That they've had this instant success. And so everybody feels that since I've been a part of your life, I should be a part of your success.
Yeah.
But if you're not doing well, then they don't know you. And you got to think about it. So few athletes ever get to that point, Charlton. But that's what we were talking about with the anxiety and depression of professional athletes, why they don't seek out seek out help for the troubles that they have.
Yeah.
And a lot of what they come through, when you look at Kevin Love, not that Kevin Love grew up in a hardship situation, But, you know, the people who come along after that, you know, you look at DeMar DeRozan, who has a similar type of situation, Charlton, where people are always there.
Yeah.
So many professional athletes, Charlton, that you don't get any rest. And there's been many of them that had to hire go-betweens to keep their families and friends away from them. And all of a sudden, they will move places, don't give out their number. People, oh, you think you're better than everybody else now. You're too good to deal with us now that you got some money. Well, you know, I'm not too good to deal with you. I'm just tired of you asking for the money all the time.
Yeah.
And as an athlete, when you're trying to make that decision between the sanctity of you and keeping your family and loved ones happy, that's a tough decision that you got to make. And then they'll call your mother, then, you know, have your mother call your dad, and your dad putting the pressure on you, you know, and hunting you down. Oh, man, you know, I just need $300. You know, I just got to get this car payment. Whatever it is. And when they get that all the time throughout their career, Charlton, it creates depression.
Yeah.
You get to the point where you don't want to see people. And it's like, God, so you become this isolated person within your own life. And so people will get to the point you never come around anymore. We don't see you anymore. Well, there becomes a reason for that. Because they just don't want to see you. They want to see what you have.
Yeah.
And so when you look at these athletes, as you say, they get there overnight. And everybody will say, well, they didn't get there by themselves. No, they didn't. But you're not obligated when you make it as an athlete to go buy everybody that you know a house, a car, take them on vacation.
Yeah.
Because you don't know when that check is going to cut off. And we talked about that with college athletes. You get an injury, your scholarship is gone.
Yeah, it's gone.
Instead of playing at a Power 5 school now, Charlton, you're playing at a 1AA school.
Yeah.
Hoping that you can live back to your glory days.
Well, I know
because that didn't care for you any longer.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with professional athletes. When that career over, you know, the NFL season is starting in 2 weeks, Charlton.
Yeah.
There'll be 160 NFL veterans from last year, 170 veterans that got a paycheck last year that won't get a paycheck week one of the season.
That's amazing. That's amazing how it can disappear. And everybody knows it takes a village to raise a child. There's sometimes you're on the top part of life, and there are times you're on the bottom part of life. And everybody has their moments of looking down and not forgetting that they were down at some time. And that's not just for athletes. That's for a lot of people. I just want to touch on something that kind of relates to that story tonight. Thursday night game, Philadelphia at Cleveland. Cleveland has been, I guess, not really a professional football team in the last couple of years because they just haven't won. And that, we talk about poverty, well, there could be poverty of success also. And sometimes that creates a strain. And even with people saying that in order for a coach to keep his job, he has to start Baker Mayfield over Tyrod Taylor. No, you don't. You got to go with who you think is going to help you have the better chance of winning. A guy that has playoff experience or a guy that does not. And if you think a guy that does not have playoff experience is better at helping your team win over a guy who has that playoff experience, maybe that's a bit of schizophrenia in itself. Just give me your thoughts on, no matter what happens in a preseason game, I think you got to go with someone who's been there before. And if people think you don't, then they're not going to call you when you lose your job, whether you lose it or keep it. At least go out, do it your own way, like the great Sinatra said. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, there's two teams with that same scenario. The New York Jets with Teddy Bridgewater and the Cleveland Browns with Tyrod Taylor. You know, the thing that I love about being a former athlete is that I had multiple head coaches on all levels, Charlton.
Yeah.
And they were head coaches for a reason. Because everybody in those organizations, whether it was high school, college, or professional, felt that they were the most intelligent person that they could put in that position. That they were the best decision maker that they could put in that decision. And, you know, in my entire football career, I never saw a football team, high school, college, or professional, hire a sports writer head coach.
Yeah.
I never have. I still haven't today. As long as I've been retired, I have not seen anybody hire a sports writer as a head coach.
Yeah.
I mean, I just saw the Cleveland Browns, not Cleveland Browns, but the Oakland Raiders make a mistake, you know, at head coach.
Based on his record,
he's not going to be a Dick Romero.
Yeah.
You know, being head coach. But he's not the first guy to come from the booth, go to the sideline, trying to resurrect his career. He's done it many times before.
Yeah.
But I've never seen a guy with a pencil and a pad become a head coach yet. Okay? Those guys don't do it. Who put it in ink?
Yep.
And so when I sit here and I listen to all these experts, when they make mistakes, they don't say, hey, I was wrong. They don't go back and retract the story and say, hey, I was stupid and foolish and I was unknowledgeable. I thought I was smarter than the head coach.
Yeah.
But damn, he knew what he was doing when he made that decision.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, that team went 8-8 this past year.
Yeah.
From no wins to 8-8. That's a hell of a turnaround in the organization.
Yep.
Well, maybe they should get rid of the quarterback now because he went 8-8. He didn't make the playoffs and start the guy that's at number one. Don't go with what they built on, that they're on the verge of getting there. Let's scrap that and go elsewhere.
Yeah.
That's what media writers do, Charlton. They're speculative people. They think if they can create a story, is that everybody will listen.
Yeah.
And the more people that they get to listen, whether they're right or wrong, Charlton, they're still going to be right in their mind.
Yeah.
Well, this was my thoughts. When they make a mistake, well, that was my conclusion. They don't say that I was wrong. They'll say, well, that was my thoughts and my conclusion.
Yeah.
They don't think that they're the experts. And that's the thing that any fan sitting around saying, well, Darnold should start. The media is saying that Darnold should start. You haven't heard Todd Bowles once saying that Sam Darnold should start with the Jets.
No.
You haven't heard Hugh Jackson once saying that Baker Mayfield should start with the Jets. We heard everybody in the media, all these experts who change jobs every year, whichever network offers them $10 million and they go on to it.
Yep.
They're the experts. They know all the what it is. But they're comfortable sitting in their seats, making their stories, and not having a challenge. Deal with the pressure of being a head coach. Ask them would they flip the job with their head coach, because that head coach can do their job.
Yeah.
But can they evaluate talent? They cannot evaluate talent, just like your buddy Mel Kiper. When Bill Pollard said, when was the last time you drafted somebody?
Yeah. Let me ask you, Carson Wentz, not going to play tonight, supposedly. Why are they holding him out? He can't stay rusty forever. If you're going to start against any team, why not be against a team that doesn't know how to win games tonight, Big C? Your thoughts?
Why do you hold him out? Because he is not healthy, Charlton. He has not been with the contract. Carson Wentz may be on the buck list, which will keep him out the first 6 weeks of the season.
Yeah.
This is what we said about those college players, the University of Texas players. They're worth $641,000 apiece.
Yeah.
Look at what Carson Wentz is worth to the Philadelphia Eagles. They have him locked up for 5 years, something. 5 years. They're going to have to pay him $30 million over that 5-year span.
Wow.
That's what the value is to the Philadelphia Eagles with Carson Wentz. So even if he had to sit out this entire year, Charlton, there's still 2 more years after that before he can start negotiating on his rookie deal, because they're going to take the 5th-year option on his contract. So when we talk about paying him $30 million over 5 years, you have a deal. For what?
You were having a hard time with your microphone, Big C. We're still going to try to clear it up, but I know Carson.
You won the championship. You won the championship last year, Charles.
Yeah.
So why jeopardize it? You know you're not going to go back and win it this year.
Yep.
So have fun. Keep building for your future. That's what they're doing. They're not going to play him.
Yeah.
This is all the people in the media saying play him. You never heard Peterson once. This is what I keep getting back to.
Yeah.
Until the head coach said, we're going to play him, why believe all of what you hear in the media?
Yeah, that's true. And so obviously preseason just for getting people in shape, making sure that everybody's healthy, and no matter what's going on with Ohio State or any other program going through that, I'm glad we're having this national dialogue and we're not just saying it's fake news. It's real talk, and hopefully the more we talk about it, the more we can keep women and men safe around this great country. Big C, back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young men, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, just as we were just talking about Carson Wentz, you got to look at the NFL quarterback situation. There are 64 quarterbacks in the NFL that make more money than Dak Prescott, the starting quarterback with the Dallas Cowboys, who over the last 2 seasons has 22 victories.
Wow.
Find these 64 quarterbacks that are starting in the NFL, Charlton, okay? You got 64 of them making more money than Dak Prescott. And we want to talk about Jerry Jones being a tightwad, a cheapskate.
Yeah.
Find me 64 starting quarterbacks in the NFL, Charlton. We know we only have 32 teams.
Yeah.
So think about this. Every team in the NFL has two quarterbacks making more money than Dak Prescott, who is probably on, if not the first, but the second best team in the Eastern Conference in the NFC.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, you can Google that because numbers don't lie. Sometimes people tell you it's fake news, but that's a startling report, especially 22 wins over the last 2 years. You can always follow every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide when you follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As we always tell you, there's never, ever any excuse for domestic violence. If you know any man or woman and going through that garbage, please call 911, because no man or woman should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.